Mr. Hackel, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Why don't we start, tell people who you are, a little bit about yourself, and then we can take from there.
Sounds good. My name's Alex Hackel. I'm a 27-year-old professional skier. I do all types of skiing, from street skiing, park skiing, backcountry skiing. I also have produced and directed some ski movies.
Sick.
I'm a co-owner in the brand 1000 Skis, and I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, or the suburbs of Boston, Massachusetts.
Awesome. What's going on with 1000 Skis? How's it been? Talk to me a little bit about what the last couple of years have been like. I mean, it's a new brand, and I think making a new ski brand in the year that you started it's difficult. It's difficult now. It was difficult 5 years ago. What's the process been like for you?
I think it's gone pretty smooth. It's hard to say because I have nothing to reference it to.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like there's never a good time to start anything, and that I actually felt like there was some things that aligned perfectly for us to start it then. So I kind of feel like maybe the economy hasn't been growing in those years, but
yeah.
that from where I was in my life and where the other people who started it were in their life, that it worked out pretty good.
Yeah. What was the idea with the brand? What kind of skis were you trying to make? I mean, when you go into something like this and create your own ski brand, you all had independent ski deals before that. What did you want to see differently with the stuff that you were putting together as a group?
I think we wanted just ownership, from a rider perspective, or people who are more current in the industry. Our motto is keep the culture moving. So
yeah.
I think that it wasn't there's one specific thing where we have to do this, but it's okay, we know that we have an opinion and a voice within skiing that is not represented in any company ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And that a lot of companies, they're okay, they might have a cool team manager who's in on it, but then that guy's boss isn't that in on it, and then the guy who runs the whole thing and owns the mega corporation is definitely not in on what's happening. So it's more okay, how do we have that voice come from the top down, and build a company that even when our voices stop being the coolest thing, that we're still free skiers from the beginning, and then that we can invest back in free skiing, sort of from that taking ownership. And then product wise, we love swerving, we love buttering, and obviously we felt that there was a ski, I love my previous ski sponsor, Own 3P, and I know the guys loved their previous ski sponsors, but we all felt there was a ski that could be better made to do the things that we wanted to do. So that's kind of what we went out from, how the ski is gonna ride and feel. It's basically what do we enjoy and what do we feel isn't being offered out there.
Yeah, and it seems like the goal is to keep things super simple for now. Keep it what you want, not create a million models right out of the gate, and not even create a bunch of different graphics, right? It's been all red graphic since the beginning, basically, and that's the plan going forward, I assume.
That's the plan going forward.
Okay. What else do you want to see personally expanded in the line? If you had to pick a type of ski that you think is missing that you wanted to add to the collection, do you have something in mind? Is there something that you hope can be available in the near future, or you plan to have available in the near future?
So I can't speak for the whole company because I'm one of many, but just me, Alex Hackel speaking. I would love to see more carving ski come to the lineup. I think that it's I'm a big fan of skis that I wouldn't call them directional skis, but I think that I would love to see us create a really fun directional carving ski that can rip the piste, and then also could be worn in the park, or something that maybe caters towards I don't want to say your dad, but a mix of something that somebody who's not a core park skier would have. I think that that's interesting for myself because I want more people to be on our skis, and I see us being very freestyle oriented with our lineup, and that people are just afraid of twin tips who don't ski park. So I'd love to have that ski that can hit those people, and then also those skis that those unique skiers can also use in the park and can create some really cool things.
Yeah. What do you think it is about twin tips and freestyle culture in general that makes people a little afraid to get into it?
Well, I think there's a stigma without a doubt, and that's what draws people in. That's what drew me in when I was 12 was these people ski backwards, they dress a certain way, they ski fast, and I mean the ski mountain's a huge community.
Yeah.
And if you compare how people with twin tips ski and ride and maybe their recklessness on the mountain compared with like your 55-year-old who's like
just ripping groomers,
you look like kind of like the punk.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are kind of the punks. So I think that people like kind of just like have built like such a stigma around that, and they don't see their skiing like going in that direction.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to buy a ski that would like look.
How do you break that kind of thing? Is it something that even needs to be broken so that people can feel like they can just go buy a twin tip even if they're not? Because there's plenty of people that I know that don't ski park that go and they buy a pair of thousands. They go buy a pair of twin tips just because they think it's cool, right? Like, and that's what they want to be on. But there's another huge part of the market that would probably have a lot of fun on them that maybe is intimidated to jump into that. So is that a thing worth breaking, or is it a thing that's like, okay, if it's for you, cool. If it's not for you, also cool?
I think it's like a little bit both. I don't really think it needs to be broken too much. I think it can be like debunked, because I think that a lot of the people who are like watching think that there's like having a twin tip will take away from their like ski performance, skiing like regular or whatever, straight, not ass backwards. And I think like educating people that like, I think like mounting points probably have more to do with your skiing performance going forward than having twin tips, and like telling people that it really doesn't matter if you have twin tips, and that you can. I only think of it as a benefit because you can have more possibilities, but in the grand scheme of things, I feel like that's like it's not even worth opening that can of worms. It's more like just like I don't know, as companies just creating products for everyone, and then like I also think it's like a benefit because if we come and create a ski that's a great carving ski, but not from like the perspective of another ski company that comes from maybe inspiration from a park ski, then we're gonna like get those people who like would not buy the park ski to then be on a ski that's super fun and flexible, and they can also see like some of the benefits of like a softer ski that's not like I don't know. I don't want to call out any brand specifically, but you know that typical ski.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Why all red? Why is it all red? Why are we keeping it all red? I mean, this is kind of like a very baseline question, I think. But what is the purpose and the idea behind just keeping the graphic all the same, keeping it really simple, and kind of keeping it clean? I like it personally. Like, I think it's very cool, and I've been saying for a long time, like, I wish every ski company would just make shit black. Everybody just make every ski all black all the time, because then people start picking the ski that they want based on what they want to do, as opposed to just based on the graphic. But obviously that's never going to happen. But you guys have gone the direction of just making full monochrome skis and just making it like, here's your options. Here's your 3 different widths, your 3 different styles. These are your choices.
I think it's like you're saying, like we're standing behind a product and not necessarily like a trending graphic. Mm-hmm. And I think there's like a couple elements, but like another thing is also like the sustainability aspect of it, right? Because we're not trying to like a lot of people, maybe you guys haven't thought about it. Maybe this is want to have the newest and the coolest. You buy the same ski with that graphic. So there's sort of this like sentiment behind creating something that isn't going to outdate itself. Like we're not going to create a product and then immediately outdate it 1 year later so that you guys buy the ski. We want you to buy the ski out of the merits that the ski is a really, really good ski.
Yeah.
And then also it does make it so that, you know, I don't know, if anything does go wrong with the ski, then you're able to just like have a replacement ski or like
same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea should just be like you replace your skis when you're
one side of it where it's like, yeah, people want to be really creative with their graphics. They want like something that they feel they're attached to very much. But I think there is this kind of cyclical nature that happens, like you said, every year. It's like you get to March, everything's on closeout. and it becomes old news immediately. Like we have a short, like ski season is short. No matter, even if you're somebody that tries to ski every single day of the year, like it's a short window of time when we are in season for the mass public. And it feels like we put so much energy into marketing these new graphics, these new, slightly new styles, small changes in things. And then we get to March and everything just, just throw it away. We just move on to the next thing. And I don't, that philosophy a lot because, like I said, you stick to what works for you, and you can expand your quiver based on what you feel like. And I think it also creates a better attachment to the brand, right? It's almost like it becomes a collector's item of sorts, like everybody wants to fill out their quiver of what makes sense for them. And if they already have one, the likelihood of them going and buying the POW ski, if they have the park ski, is much more likely, I think.
I don't want to say there's any shade on like graphics, and like
no, I don't think so.
I love graphics, and like as a kid, like I do remember like when you do find that ski with that graphic that's like the one that you really connect with, like it's a great experience. But I also think it's just as like part of like, okay, well, what do we feel like we can offer, or like kind of like there is that model's been done before, so how can we do something different? So I don't want to like basically say that like graphics are bad or whatever. They definitely have that that cyclical nature of pushing product, but also that doesn't mean that they're completely bad, because they are doing good things too. But that's kind of just like, we felt like that was like what we could, a way that we could, stick out, and wasn't being offered very much in comparison to the other model.
For sure. What favorite graphic that you remember as a kid that you liked? Like, is there some, because there's stuff that sticks out for everybody, I think. It's like the first time you see this graphic and you're like, holy shit, like this is what I want. Especially when you're like 14, 15, 16, you're like, this is what I attach myself to. Do you have something that you remember from those days that you're like, this is what I thought? Like for me, it was like Line Anthem, right? For so many people, I think it was that early on, and you just look at it and you're like, fuck, man, like this is what I like. This is how I feel like I'm going to express myself in a ski, is something like this graphic.
Definitely. I would say, I think like ninth boards. I loved Henrik and everything. I idolized him, and like getting my first pair of ninth boards was like the time where I'm like, okay, my skis match the identity that I want to portray on the mountain. Yeah. But then also there was like, before that, I think I was really attracted to like the K2 with like the site logos.
Oh,
like
the
public enemies.
Yeah.
I thought were like always super nice. And I remember were like, I don't want to say name the ski, but they weren't nearly as cool. And I remember being like bummed because like the graphic did like, mean like a lot. And I was bummed that I wasn't like tall enough to get the cool graphics. But I think, I would say from like a ninth board and just in general, like I do feel like when you look at skis, like whether it's between skis, like, the graphic does matter.
Favorite skier growing up?
Favorite skier growing up, 100% Henrik Harlaut.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I think for a lot of people your age, it's Henrik, because it was like when he kind of came on the scene, it was like it felt like the world stopped for a second and was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like for so many people, it was just eye-opening to like what people could do on skis, like buttering and jibbing and like just being a little more free and flowy and not really caring so much about what traditional form looked like even.
And the cool thing with Henrik is like, it's still that way with 100%. Kids. That's like, I was skiing Zermatt with like a 11-year-old, and he was like, yeah, my favorite skier is Henrik Harlaut. Yeah. I'm like, that was my favorite skier when I was 12 and I'm now 27. So that's 15 years. And like everyone has the Harlaut snow pants, and it's like a testament. And he is like, what he's done for the sport is mind blowing. And the fact that like that nose butter triple that he did was 10 years ago. And it's just like, I don't know. I think it's a testament that he's several generations favorite skier. And that he deserves all of that because he's done so much and he's been so relevant through so many changes in the sport. Yeah,
and it shows you the impact that he made like right away and how far ahead of everything else he was at that point, right? Because he's still as relevant as ever right now. It's incredible. Let me ask you this. Last time I saw you was at Kings and Queens, your first Kings and Queens. What was the experience like? Why did you decide to do it? Let's kind of talk through it a little bit.
So they invited Magnus to do it. Mm-hmm. And Magnus was in Europe, and he was like, I'm not going to fly out for this. Yeah. And he just like, without telling me, just told the event organizers, hey, I can't come, but I know my friend Alex, he's a great skier, and I think he can come. So then they extended the invite to me, and I just got the invite in my email, and I was like, whoa. Because I didn't really think it wasn't like a competition that I grew up dreaming about doing, it wasn't even in the same lane as most of the skiing I did in my whole ski career. And then I kind of like thought about it, and I looked at the invite and was like, oh, well, 7 days all inclusive to Jackson Hole Resort. and then I was like, you know what? Like, I've never been to Jackson. This just, I don't know, it just felt like it would just be something that would be good for me to do and that I would enjoy doing. And at the very least, it would just give me a new experience. So then I said yes without knowing anything about the competition whatsoever.
I think I told you this last year, like when I was up there, like looking at everybody, you watch the way that people are reacting to how scary it is and like what they're about to do and their mood. It didn't seem to me like it's not that you didn't care. It's just that you were unbothered, it felt like, by the event itself. At least this is what you were putting out into the world. It did not seem like you were that worried about it. It did not seem like you were that nervous. You were just relaxed. What is that actually the case? Or
no.
Okay.
Not at all. I was super nervous. Like I remember there was like controversy about like not controversy but
about
like
when the start was.
And I remember sitting in the car and we were about to do the athlete meeting.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I pray it's not tomorrow. Like I really pray it's not tomorrow. I'm not mentally prepared to jump into this.
I don't think anyone
into this like Couloir right now. And I think what a lot of people don't know too is like it can be a great snow year.
Yeah.
But the wind can take snow out of that couloir. So it didn't even matter in many ways that last year was like the best snow year ever in a lot of these West Coast mountains because if the wind blows the wrong direction, there can be a lot of snow on that mountain, just not in that couloir. So I was like, when I accepted the invite, I'm like, oh, it's going to be so deep in there. Yeah. And I had no idea how any of the mountain and the wind directions would affect it. And then when I showed up there, I'm like, ooh, okay, like it's not as bad as last year. So like if you go from that, it's like, but it also wasn't like knee deep, waist deep, like do anything, not going to hurt yourself. And I remember it was definitely like bigger and flatter. Like when you look at it from film, I was like, oh, it's not, the drop doesn't look that big. Yeah. And then like the landing looks really steep, so it'll match up well. Yeah. And then I show up and I'm like, the drop is a lot bigger than I thought. And this landing looks a lot flatter than I thought, which is like the worst of the two combinations.
Yeah.
But I think that at the end of the day, you just buy the ticket and take the ride. And that when you sign up for the event, you know you're going to jump into it. And that there's only so much like you can do. And also like the way that the wind even just and the snow that came the day before the event affected it, I felt like the first day, the inspection day, I looked at it from the top and I was like, I don't see a piece of landing I like here. Yeah. I don't see any real estate. And then like when I went up the day of the competition, I just like saw that there was like this little like pocket right where like I'm spinning left, so I'm gonna drift a little bit left, and I just like saw like, okay, like I actually think this lines up. So it was like a great feeling because it would have been worse if it was the opposite, where all the inspection days I kind of see the landing that I like, and then the day of, the snow's not there where it was. But it was the opposite. So I got like that extra boost of just like, okay, well, today feels best of all the days I've came up top and looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and for a lot of people too, it was very unsure in the beginning even when everybody was lined up, right? The first couple hours, they were like, all right, we might not go.
Yeah.
Like this might not actually go off. So it's like, it's a very weird event because you're all standing up there, you're all ready to go, sort of, but they're kind of telling you maybe we won't go, maybe we will go. You just found out yesterday you are going the next day. Half the people are upset about it. Half the people are like, like it'll be okay, but we just have to deal with it. It's a very nerve-wracking environment. So like when I saw you up there, I was like, he doesn't even seem like he's bothered by this.
I would say it helped because I had a career in slopestyle skiing and I was on the World Cup circuit.
Yeah.
And like there's so much drama in like World Cup skiing, even if it doesn't look like it. And I've been there before, where people are like, okay, like raise your hand if you think the competition should happen. Raise the hand if the competition shouldn't happen. And then like you like form like two mobs of people with different opinions. People throw snowballs, yell insults. If I tear my ACL, it's because you. So I've been in those situations where like, and I know that like, I don't know, like everyone has different ways of getting hyped up, and a lot of people's ways is to say like how crappy it is. Like, so what I learned is like, you just have to like trust your own instinct, and like the same dude who will tell you that it's terrible will like 5 minutes later, like be doing like a crazy trick into that couloir. I know that it's not my game to be super self-depressive. So I just try and like tune it out, because I know that like, okay, like, people can react and have big feelings, and that's just kind of how everyone has their own process. Yeah. And I'd have to like first take care of like my own process. So I basically just have to like not get too involved into if the event's going to happen or not, and like get it, like, why put my energy there when I need to put my energy into jumping in this couloir? Yeah. It's better to just save it, focus on what you can control, and then if they tell you go, you're ready, instead of like doing this drama in your head beforehand.
Yeah. And you went first up.
I did.
Like first run. What first run to second run, like what was the feeling like after you knocked, like you check off, like you got through run one safe, like you made it through okay, no injury, no issue, you kind of get a feeling of like what the landing's actually like. What was the feeling like rolling into run two?
Well, that's the funny thing, is like run one, I like jump into it, and for my standards, it felt great. Like the snow felt good. Yeah. I'm not a super like spoiled paddle skier, so I was just like, damn, that felt great. And then like, you know, on this adrenaline, and then adrenaline wears out, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't land. Yeah. And you look up and you start seeing people stomping, and you're just like, not even out of the like wanting to win this competition. It's just like, I know that I can land this. I know that I can do that. And then you go back up to the top, and it's like, it goes like reverse order. Yeah. And it's kind of like number one gets like kind of screwed in the whole process, because you drop first, and really it's totally unideal because you don't know the snow conditions inside the couloir. So
no feedback.
You have no feedback whatsoever. And then also all the hits inside the couloir are completely untouched. Yeah. Which is like, as a skier and people listening, oh, that's fantastic, you get the untouched. But if you're competing, like having a track will at least show you where to go and give you something to take off from. So you're more likely to like land like the tricks that you do within the couloir with a little bit of references. Yeah. So then when you like have no references, and you're the one whose knees are basically testing the snow for the day, and you have nothing to know kind of like how good or how bad it is. Yeah. And then you have to go and you have to wait for then to be the exact opposite, where everyone goes before you. And then, you know, I feel really bad for the people who drop like 20th, because they don't have any, like, I'd rather go first than like 25th, but like, it's definitely not an ideal spot. So then you go back up, long story short. So you do it once and you have no reference, but you have all fresh snow, and then you come back up and you basically have seen 45 people land in the same landing as you, and you can't even recognize it. You come back up the second time and you're like, that one piece of landing real estate that I was talking about that I enjoyed is no longer there. But then you do have that confidence, like, okay, well, I did just jump into it. I didn't die. I even crashed, and it's going to be fine. And so I just kind of like, I think it helped. The second time, I was just calmer. I was just, the first time I had so much adrenaline. You're the first person opening up for the day, and there's so much unknown. Whereas the second time, I was like, okay, like, what do I know? And it's like, okay, I looked at the video. I'm like, okay, well, if I go that big again with how bombed out this landing is, I'm for sure going to not land it. Exactly. So then I was like, okay, well, like back to like the street skiing days. So like, okay, like you have to like, to some degrees, like work smarter and not harder. So you have to like line everything up, and also like one zone where I'm like, okay, I think that's like the right looking like angle where it's like the steepest is going to be easiest to land. So I kind of just like the second time had more time to like think about, because now that there was like not endless opportunities, or like not endless landing, like I had time to like really think about like, okay, like how do I do this? Yeah. And then I just like kind of just went blank. And then I just remember I landed and I like landed like this, and I'm riding out, and I just like couldn't believe it, like because of course I like put myself in the situation to do that,
right.
But there is also something in the back of your head where like if I didn't land it with a whole fresh landing, how am I going to land it into a mogul field?
Right.
And then I just remember just like, oh crap, and then you're just coming into the next jump.
Yeah.
And then you're coming in the next jump. And I also think too, like that competition is really good for somebody with the background that I have in slopestyle, because once you survive Corbets, the drop, the rest is like basically a tracked out backcountry jump and then into a park jump. Yeah. And then that's like home turf kind of. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, once I landed that, I was like, okay, well the hardest part is over. And now I have everything like geared towards my like strong suits. Yeah. So it was just a moment of just couldn't believe. And then like probably one of the best feelings of my life was just landing the full run. Yeah. Getting to the bottom, Jackson Hole is just erupting. Like there's so many people
lined up there.
Exactly. And like I just get mobbed by like 3 people I don't even know. They're just fellow skiers. Yeah. And that's what's so cool. It's like that energy of like everyone knows what it's like to do it. And everyone's so happy for you. And I just hugged them so hard. Like it was like my mom. Like, ah! And I just remember like I was just like, oh my God, I have so much dopamine, so much adrenaline. And like that was an achievement. Like I don't care what you get placed. Just like you did Corbets to like hitting that couloir to a park jump. Yeah. And like that is like something to just be proud of. And I just remember just being like, I don't really care what happens. I'm just really proud that I like showed what I was capable of. And I got that feeling of landing like it's like one of the dream runs pretty much. And that event is so cool because you can compete and then still also like have a dream run. Like it's so weird. A lot of times like, when you do a slope run, it's not really your dream run. There's no, if you don't do good, there's no like
it's all about scoring and
it's all about scoring. Whereas like Kings Queens like invites you to like go ski one of the most historic runs under the best conditions. And that like that's something that even if you don't get on the podium, you can be like super proud of that you performed on that run.
Yeah. Every single person I think that finished and like completed a whole run, like they had the same face. When they get to the bottom, they're just like completely euphoric about getting through it because you can just see the nerves just like leave their body and just pure feeling of like, I fucking did it. It's done. It doesn't matter if like you've done this stuff your whole life. It's just, it's hard no matter what it is, and it's scary no matter what it is.
Exactly.
Speaking of nerves, most nerve-wracking thing you did last year, most nerve-wracking run, was it Corbets? Was it X Games? I mean, you tell me, like, in terms of how you felt.
I would say, like, most nervous I was for competitions without doubt is X Games Knuckle Huck, because I think that it's almost nice at Kings and Queens that the drop is so hard and it is so scary that you kind of like can forget that you're competing. Mm-hmm. And like I hadn't done like a on snow organized competition in like 5 years before doing X Games Knuckle Huck. Mm-hmm. And because you do get so much time to practice and because it is a knuckle, you're just like, and I mean, my childhood heroes dropping right in front of me and all right behind me, all this stuff is happening. And it's that was probably like competition wise like the most nervous one. But I would say there was also this competition in like Riksgränsen called Scandinavian Big Mountain Championships, and it was like the last day. This competition is crazy. Do you know anything about it? Okay, so it's a big mountain competition in northern Sweden. Okay. In like early May.
Okay.
So the weather conditions are insane.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but the, northern Sweden, the snow conditions are never like super perfect. And then the format is, it's like a 3-day competition. So the first day you get a score and then they like cut the bottom like 80%. Mm-hmm. Then they keep the top 20. Then you compete the second day on a different face. And then you keep the score from the first day. Then you keep the score from the second day, and then they have a third day with a third phase. Mm-hmm. And then they calculate all your points from the days. Mm-hmm. So to win this event, you have to ski a perfect line 3 days in a row. And then the first day, you even have to like have that stress of like, basically if you don't make the cut. Yeah. So it's this huge, like it's an insane mind game, because it's not just about today. It's about today, and then how you qualify into tomorrow, and then having enough points on finals day to like get a crack at winning. And it's any failure is almost like you're out. So you have to be perfect for like 3 days to have a chance of winning. And I did that for the first time this year. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, like the first face, it was like super bad conditions. It was hard to see. I'd never skied it before. And I think I qualified like seventh. And then the second day was this super playful face. And I was just like, okay, like this is where I'm going to make up my points.
Yeah.
And then I got like seventh. I don't know. My run didn't really go like 100% as planned. Mm-hmm. And it was like a classic, I don't know, not like a classic like overconfidence, but definitely like it's my first year doing the competition. And there were some things I wasn't prepared for. And coming into the last day, and that's on the steepest one. It's called the Steep. That's the name of the run. Yeah. And it's just this like convex roller that just like drops off. So it's so hard to find any like places to like
do anything.
Not to do anything, to navigate. That's because it's a convex roller. So you're just like, it's just gradually dropping. So it's hard to like pick up on your navigation points.
Yeah.
And there's this like double stager, and I end up doing like hand drag 3 into this like into a double stager. So like on the first cliff I do hand drag 3, and then I'm like landing on top of another cliff.
Yeah.
And that was like also just like a blackout moment. Yeah. Because I was like, I did like, there's like the like a little hit up top, I did a backflip. And then I'm like coming in, and then I knew I had like a hard time navigating because of like the way the convex roller was. So I was like, oh, I've lost so many points because I've just skied off my line. And now I'm back in the line. And then I was just like, in the back of my head, I was like, we have something, or like the homies in the bunch, is called True Good, which is translated to trust God. Yeah. And it's like whenever you show up to a zone, you always have like a True Good, which is like, what would happen if everything just was perfect? Like, what would happen if everything was perfect? And maybe like 1 out of 20 times you actually do your True Good. A lot of times you do like one step under. So I was just like, that was like when I looked at the face, I was like, in the back of my head, if everything feels right, I'm going to do this. Yeah. And then I get there and I just, skied off my line, but saved it, but knew I was going to get docked tons of points for just not skiing good, like just not even on anything that was going to get scored. So then I just was up there, and I just was just like, fuck it, I have to do this. Yeah. But not in like a bad way, in a positive way. I just like, something was just like, you're doing it. And then I just basically do the hand drag 3 blackout. Land like 4 point again, and then I ski out the second one. And that was like for sure on the Corbets level of like, it was like full commitment. Cause at the, once you're like going upside down pretty much on the double stager, like you have to get back to your feet, or else you're going to get clobbered on the second one.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. The multi-day comp thing seems like not just exhausting, like physically, but mentally, like figuring out how to make it through a multi-day event is always, it's a challenge. And I can't give you guys enough credit for like going through that. Like going through the physical aspect obviously is insane. And like what you're able to do on skis is insane, but mentally just preparing yourself to be in the right headspace to go. And even to get to that point of blackout where your body just takes over and you're just like, it's almost muscle memory at that point. It's like, you can do this thing. And to be able to just like shut off for a second and do that is crazy. And it's a feeling that a lot of people will never be able to have, right? Where it's just like, Jesus, take the wheel type thing. You're just like, here's what it is.
But I think it's like important to like, it's not just like feel yourself and then go do something like above your level. It's just about like knowing where your level is, and then having that relationship with pushing it, and then like, knowing the calculated risks of like, what's the best I can do, what are the consequences, and then like letting your body take over, if that makes sense. So it's not like lose all control, black out of everything. It's just like knowing that commitment needs to be 100%, and in order to commit, you have to just like stop thinking about anything other than landing. Yeah. Because like if I'm in the air and I'm thinking about all the
guys, this year there's a new film, there's a new project. What was it like putting it all together? Favorite moments of the year? Like, kind of talk me through a little bit. Because you guys work together all the time. You're with each other all the time. And I always wonder how this stuff just kind of comes together, like where the ideas come from, where the cinematography ideas come from, and where you guys are all at in terms of what you want to see out of yourselves in a movie like this.
So this movie is called Census.
Yeah.
And I would say that, like, with all the bunch movies, like, there's kind of the same cast of characters, but then depending on how everyone's feeling that year, then, like, a certain cast of characters maybe, like, takes the reins.
Yeah.
So for Many Fantasies Later, that was, like, me and Magnus were, like, we're doing a project, we're really motivated, and then, like, we're going to make it happen, and then everyone's welcome to join at whatever level they want to join at, pretty much. And this year, after doing that and co-producing, co-directing, I was like, okay, like, I've been filming only, like, full-length movies or street parts for the last, like, 6 years. I need to take a year and say yes to competitions like Kings and Queens, Corbets, do something else. So I kind of, like, took a little step back, and I didn't really know what was going to go on. And then Magnus and Jens then took the reins, and they came up with this wonderful concept for Census. And then I, like, joined in on 2 trips, one to Switzerland and one to Wisconsin. And I think it's just cool that and I think that's why, like, a lot of the projects are so different and unique, is because it's, like, the same group of people doing it, but inspiration is not just taken from, like, one person again and again and again. It's, like, kind of like the group trades off of, like,
it's whatever feels right.
Yeah, exactly. And so the concept with this one was, like, to create something that really, like, we had, like, a FPV segment in our Many Fantasies Later. So there's this amazing FPV driver, Luca Bees. And
the best, by the way. Like, the way that shit comes out is fucking insane.
Exactly. So we got the chance to work with him for Many Fantasies Later, and we liked how that segment was. And this movie's like, okay, like, how could you make a movie with the mood board being that segment? So it's not going to look exactly like that segment, but that was, like, the inspiration of, like, what these drones can do in the mountains. And then I just saw it for the first time live at the premiere. Like, I didn't see it beforehand. Yeah. And Jens directed it. And it's definitely really, really, really special, and definitely something that I can't describe. Yeah. And that I think is going to possibly surprise people.
What was the feeling like getting the home crowd reaction a little bit?
The home crowd reaction is the best. I feel very, I don't want to say spoiled, but it feels super cool to have people like that, or to have, like, I don't know, a hometown that loves skiing, and a hometown that also is, like, proud of you. Yeah. And that's the feeling that I got. Was I guess I ski, like, a lot of places, and occasionally sometimes it's, like, I don't want to say, like, hard, but it's been a little while since I grew up in Boston these days. Yeah. And when I came back, I was like, you know what, I'm super happy that that's the place I represent. Like, no matter what I do in skiing, I'm always going to represent Boston, Massachusetts, New England, Sunday River, Maine, and that, like, those people are so kind and so excited, and just, like, it was really cool to be back and to feel that love coming from them, and to be, like, really supported by where you come from.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's still a lot of people that don't even know that you're from Boston area. Like, I think you get associated with, like, the Swedish group so much that when you tell people you're from Boston, you're like, they just don't, they didn't know. It's, like, almost a little mind-blowing that, like, okay, someone like this came from this exact area, like, grew up skiing Sunday River, grew up in this crew, and then has kind of gone full-on international with the ski career.
I agree with that. I do think that I get put in that box quite a bit. And, you know, it's something that I think it's cool, and that I hope that all the kids from Boston or Sunday River know. And I do think they know. Like, I really think like, all the kids that at Sunday River, like, they know. And that I think it's not the Boston crowd that doesn't know that I'm from Boston. I think it's, like, the everybody else. Yeah. And that's what's cool. And also, like, I don't know. I think it is, like, it's surreal. Like, it's really surreal, because I was, like, the kid who was looking for inspirations and role models within the East Coast ski scene. And I had tons of them. Like, I had Dale Talkington was, like, an East Coast skier of my generation. I had the whole step crew. Like, when I was a kid, like, I believed, like, I could, no matter what, achieve anything because I could just look around and I could see people being in the places that I want to be from the areas that I was from. And it's cool that now somebody could look at me and be like, oh, well, I grew up in Massachusetts. I grew up skiing this, and I could maybe get third place at Kings and Queens of Corbets, or I could maybe, make great street parts, or I could do this, or I could do that, because there's people who come from these humble mountains in New England that don't get a lot of snow and don't have the best weather conditions, who do it and who do make it to high levels in the sport.
Yeah, it's great. There's a ton of people, especially in that era, like right around your time, a little before even, like there was tons of people coming out of this area, and you were just like, how is this, like, world renowned? Like Simon Dumont is a good example, right? It's like everybody in the world, in the ski world, snow sports world, knows who that guy is, right? And just came from skiing Sunday River. Like, it's just as simple as that. It's there's something, I think, because so many people are used to seeing like the out west parts, everybody goes to Colorado, everybody goes to Utah, everybody goes to Tahoe. This is where skiing is. I think sometimes the East Coast gets a little forgotten about, but East Coast represents hard in skiing. Like even out west, you go out west, every other person is from here.
Without a doubt.
Like it's crazy.
It's an invasion of East Coasters.
Yeah.
But I think that it's I think it's inspirational. And as a kid, I was always super proud. I was jealous at first, and then I became proud. So I was like always like, my first impression was like, what? You're telling me I could ski freeway every day at Breckenridge? Well, Mom, why don't we live in Frisco? And then you realize, obviously, as you get older, you're like, oh, well, there's so much other things in life than where the best skiing is. But as a kid, you're first jealous. But then once I got those opportunities to ski out west, then I became very proud of being from a place like New England, Massachusetts. And then also I realized that, to me, like and I really do feel this way, like the ground for everything that I've created in skiing came from skiing like on the weekends with just local kids in Sunday River, Maine. Like it developed like a passion for the sport that then like carried with me like everywhere I go. But if I never had that moment with, like, I don't know, it was just a special moment at Sunday River. There's just a bunch of young kids whose, parents had weekend houses from either Portland, Maine, or Boston, or wherever, who were all the same age, who were all into park skiing. And like, those are still probably my favorite time skiing. It's like those memories are favorite memory skiing. It's like just being a kid in like the 6th grade, and it's like day one of a 14-day winter holiday, and you see your crew, and you guys go lap the park, then you eat chicken tenders and do whatever. And I feel like that foundation of what was created, not from like how well I could ski or anything technically skiing, but that foundation of like the passion of going skiing, the passion for park skiing, the park community, the ski community, just like was put in me at Sunday River, Maine. And then when I got better opportunities, I was then able to like put that, what was like given to me there, and then like express it out.
Yeah, and I think there's also something about the New England scene that gives people a very different relationship with skiing, right? It's rain, snow, shine, otherwise, you're still going skiing. Like it's a less conditional love for the sport, I think, than a lot of people have when they're out west. Because it's like, I got tons of friends that live out there, and if it's not a snow day, they're just like, fuck it. Like, I don't need to go skiing today. It's not even that good. We only got 3 inches last night. We only got 5 inches last night. Versus, like, you get 3 inches here at, like, Mount Snow or Sunday River or wherever. It's like, it's Armageddon. Like, everybody comes out for anything at all. It could be, like, 50-50 rain, snow, and everybody is still out there, like, hoping for the best. It's just a different attachment to the sport.
No, I do agree with you. There was I didn't check the weather forecast when I was a kid. It was the weekend. I go skiing. Yeah. It didn't matter if I was getting blown off the mountain or if it was the best slushy day of all time. It was my free time, and I was going to go skiing. And then later on in life, then you're like worrying about conditions. And
you think about all these other things that are not relevant anymore.
Exactly. But I do think that probably is like at the core of why like the relationship and why East Coast skiers are generally very successful, is because it's like you're saying, it's rain, snow, sleet, sunshine. It's just, this is what we do.
Yeah, I like that, and that's like a thing that I think everybody from New England is very proud of. Right? It doesn't matter. Like, you're used to skiing ice, you're used to skiing shit. Doesn't matter. Like it's all part of it.
Definitely.
Just accept the way it is.
If I was gonna be like really New England patriotic, I would also maybe like chime in of like the culture here as well. Like there's like, I don't want to say there's like a New England work ethic, but like I do feel like
there is for sure.
There is for sure, and also there's like a hardworking mentality. Or I don't want to say other places are like not hardworking.
Right. It's different though.
But it's different in the way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say crazy things right now, so I'm not going to say crazy things right now. I'm being recorded, but I do feel like I have a big pride in the New England culture and the work ethic and the values and.
There's just a totally different vibe, and this is the vibe that we have here.
Exactly.
So it's a good thing.
And and it's also like, I think it has to just do with that, like, if you actually look at it, there's not that many things that New England actually has that are amazing. Like when it comes to geography, it's just like we have mountains, we don't have great mountains, we have the water.
4,000 footer, it's a big deal. Like it's the biggest deal.
Exactly. And then we have like, I mean, we're on the water in Boston, but you don't go swimming very often. Yeah. It's like I think, really the people do make New England what it is. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of New England, speaking of home crowd advantage, you're going to be speaking at Snowbound in a few weeks here. What is that going to be like for you? Like being up on a stage, no skis, no anything, just like talking in front of a bunch of people, like people just sitting there ready to listen to what it is that you have to tell.
I'm excited for the Snowbound Expo. I think it's happening first week of November.
Yeah, 3rd to the 5th, I think.
3rd to the 5th. And I'm excited. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to talk about, but I hope to share things that are like inspirational. And I would love to share like aspects of my ski story that people might not know. Like, it's not going to be like a demo on how you do nose butter 3, but I would love to just share the story of like that like we're saying, coming from New England and scratching and clawing and what lessons did I learn that then helped me later on in my professional ski career. So I hope it's something that people, no matter what it is, that it's something people can enjoy. And obviously I hope as many people as possible come.
Have you done something like that before? Like inside, just sitting in front of a group of people? Do you like doing that kind of thing?
So I do like it. And the reason why I like it, or one of the reasons why I like it, is my dad is a public speaker.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, there would be a lot of driving to go skiing to get to the mountains from Massachusetts to Maine. And my dad would have like mini speaking camps. Like, okay, here's a topic. You have 3 minutes. You have to talk about X, X, and X.
That's
and
awesome.
So he kind of instilled, and I do like talking. So he instilled that kind of like, I don't want to say love, but that ability to speak, and why being able to like share a story captively can inspire people and the good that it can do.
Yeah.
And I have done it. I've done it for, I give a speech to, there's something called the Dyslexic Symposium that Montana State University puts on. I'm dyslexic, and I've given a speech there the last 2 years. And then I went to CVA last fall, and I gave a speech in front of their school. And I'm doing a speech for a school in Connecticut the week before the Snowbound Expo.
Nice.
So it's something that I've done before that I want to do more of and that I enjoy to do.
You could just make your career earnings on speaking engagements if you want.
Speaking engagements, they're awesome in the sense of if you enjoy to do it, it's a good day rate.
Yeah, for sure, to just show up. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to get a lot of Shaun White action while we're there. Like, see if he's actually very...
Is he coming?
Oh, yeah. We'll see if he actually is like engaged. I'm curious to see what kind of vibe he brings to something like this, because like he's one of the biggest names in snow sports that you could bring to something like this, right? And I'm sure they paid him a buttload of money to come out and talk, but it's just like I'm curious to see how he treats it. If it's just like I show up, I'm at 1 o'clock, I speak for 30 minutes, and I get the fuck out of there, or if it's like he hangs around and it's like he's very like down with the community. I have no idea what he's gonna be like. I've never met him. I have no idea what kind of shit he's gonna do. But I'm curious to see how that rolls out. They got a good lineup this year.
I will say, like, I'm really impressed that like it's leveling up. Like, that they're bringing in me. You're coming there as well. Obviously, I pale in comparison to Shaun White. But they're like the fact that they're bringing the Shaun Whites, the Ted Liggettys, and like, you know, I do hope that it goes really well, and I hope that they continue to expand, because I think it's any event in Boston and any event in the East Coast that brings together the ski community is really cool, and I'm happy to see they're investing to like grow.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad it's going on, and I think they do a good job, especially with the speaker side of things. I think they do a good job at like getting people that people actually give a shit about. Like last year it was Bodhi, Vasu, a bunch of different people came out and just spoke and got up on the stage and kind of like poured their hearts out for like 30 minutes to an hour and engaged with the crowd, and it was really cool to see. It's cool to see it in Boston. There's something that like, because the East Coast doesn't get all the attention in the world always from these types of people, to see everybody kind of gathering in one place, I think it's a good thing for the future generations too.
100%. And I think great for just like the community to be able to like meet their heroes at some point in time. And I think that when you live in the places where ski heroes come in and out, that you get that experience. But I think when you live in a place like New England, you don't always get that experience to meet your heroes.
There's that one guy that lives in this one place, and they're not all in the same place all the time. It just doesn't happen that much. So it works out well, I think.
Exactly. And plus, like, the blessing and the curse is like when you do succeed in skiing from New England, you usually move out of New England or spend your time skiing outside New England. That's one of the reasons I do the hike and hang at Killington,
which is fucking so cool, by the way. Like, so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love that. Like, what is that like for you?
That's like, I think that's like the funnest day of the season.
Really?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think it was cool because it just happened like very like naturally. Like the first year I just put on my Instagram story like, hey, I'm going to be here and I'm going to bring prizes. And then it went good. And then the next year it got even bigger. And then this year's going to be the third year of it. So it's cool that it just happens so naturally. But I just like it because everyone comes like out of that with like a smile on their face. And it's cool. And I just can see that kids are really appreciative of it. And that gives me so much energy. Like when like I come back from the day and I just have seen like tons of kids who are super engaged in skiing, park skiing, and like can tell that this day is going to like live with them to help inspire them like throughout that whole winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. I think, there seems to be something about you that like gets very, very energized. I think when like the little kids are excited to come see you, the little kids are excited to come like meet somebody that they look up to, ski with you. It seems like it does as much for you as it does for the kids.
100%.
Yeah. I love that. I think there's a lot of sports when kids would never have that opportunity to meet somebody that they've watched growing up or as they're watching currently. And I think for you to even provide that opportunity, and I don't even know if it's that you're looking at it like you're providing the opportunity. I think you just go and do it because you enjoy it, right? Like,
but I think of it as like more, just like doing that thing that you wanted. That's like when you were a kid, and like that. Now I do get to be in that position where I am the role model, and then it's like, well, do I want to like embrace the local community? Do I want to put time and energy to like give back, or do I want to just like, okay, well, now I have the ability to go ski in Colorado, Utah, or the Alps all year, so I'm just gonna do that. And I think that it's cool to like give back. And I don't even know what the question was, but it is something that I just generally like to do.
No, I agree. And I think that's for a long time. It's like Line Traveling Circus was that for a lot of people. Like the Tell a Friend tour was that for a lot of people, especially in New England, right? Like getting these people that you watch online all the time to come to your local hill, bring pizza, and just go in session for a few hours was like the coolest thing ever. When I was growing up, like it was what everybody looked forward to.
Exactly. To answer a question now that I have it back in my head. But I look at it as like giving time is like the most important. So when I show up there, to me, it's about creating like an experience for everyone and like giving time to like teach people if they have a trick they want to learn, to like learn that trick, or to like give that person the time of day, or to ask the questions that they have to ask. Or like I look at it as like, I am very happy that we like give away prizes and we give away money, but it's more like I look at it as like going there and giving my time to people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To like invest my time back into like the young generation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How long are you planning on staying after the show? Like are you planning on staying for opening weekend at Killington? Are you planning on like kicking around for a little while, like in Boston?
So I'm going to be in Boston for like the next month or so until the Snowbound show. But then most likely I'll go and try and get some like skiing in somewhere between. I mean, the opening day of Killington could potentially even be before the show.
Snowbound, yeah.
I hope it's before the show.
It's cold as shit this week. Like it's like 38 degrees at night or something like that. Like it's almost time to start like lighting up snow guns.
I hope so. So I hope that I'm at the opening day of Killington as well. But probably between the Snowbound Expo and the Hike and Hang, I'll go try and like
travel a little bit
and get to some.
Sick. Okay, cool. Last thing I'm gonna ask you, pretty much before we wrap up here, new clothing out with Peak Performance. What's the story? What's the graphic background? How did we come up with this? Why did we come up with this? What's the story? Give me a little bit of insight on that.
So I've now been riding for Peak. I'm coming into my third season, which is super cool. And I really like the partnership with them because they really believed in me. And they also like believed in my transition from like a street skier into like more than just a street skier. And they have like really talented designers. Like when you go to their headquarters in Stockholm, like you're like, yeah, this is like people's jobs are just what type of fabric is great. And like, you know, they're
dialed.
They're dialed. So one of the people, like one of their head designers, his name's Andy. He has a super Swedish last name. I can't. Everyone just calls him Andy. And he's like a big fan of the bunch and was a big fan of my skiing. And he just like approached me one day, just like, hey, like I had this idea and I do like art. Or I did a lot more art previously where I made paintings. And he had like somehow found paintings like deep down on my Instagram. And he's
no shit.
I really love these paintings. Like, what do you think about doing a collab? So then I was like just super honored and I was like, yeah, of course, like that'd be awesome. So then like I made these shapes kind of based off some like previous paintings that I made. And then, I mean, there's not like too much like super like detail and like what do these shapes mean? It's more just like
it's just what came out of your head.
What came out of my head and kind of what I think like looks like cool and interesting. And then we have like the hoodie version, which has like, I think I'm like most proud of that. It has like a texture to it.
Yeah.
And so the hoodie version is like, we use tufting, which is like the same thing you would use for like a rug.
Yeah.
So like the shapes like pop out.
Yeah.
And that was like what was super cool. It was like working with Andy. Then like I came up with the designs. And then like he was like able to like source like this amazing like style to print it to make it like something that I couldn't make on my own. Because I've made some like small merch drops here and there. But then it's like, you know, you're not creating a quantity to the point that you can customize anything. And it's basically like, here's a screen print or here's an embroidery. Yeah. But like, you can't do anything more. Whereas like when I worked with Peak, it was like to come up with the idea, they gave me creative freedom on how it was going to look. And then they just like supported me in like making it like better and like tapping into the resources that they have because they're like a dialed
brand.
Company.
Yeah. Awesome. That's sick. Tell people where they can find you, where they can find the product if you want, where people can get all the information that they need, and obviously tour info for the new film.
So you can find me at Alex Hackel, Instagram, TikTok, Alex Hackel Network on YouTube. I'm going to be doing like a lot more YouTube content this season.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely follow me and subscribe on YouTube. And then you can find this collab t-shirt on peakperformance.com. Go to the search button and just type in Alex Hackel because it's called something like, it's called the Alex Hackel Pro Model or collab or something. So if you type my name in peakperformance.com, you're going to find it. Sick. Then you can find 1000 Skis on 1000skis.com. And then the tour info, you should definitely go to thebunch.sc or the bunch on Instagram. And there's like, I'm actually super impressed. There's like 20 or something tour stops, so I can't name it off like.
No,
Also, it's if you're in Scandinavia, it's on the Super Tour, which is this awesome like independent film tour that Nikolai Schiemer is creating. And then in America, we had the Boston stop. It's in Salt Lake, and there might be a couple in Canada. So just go to thebunch.sc and find all the tour stop dates.
Hell yeah! Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure to come on.